Hello, everyone.
Hey, Christian.
I love your background.
Thank you. Thank you. You too can have this background. You can go to the CVB's website and they have this one and a couple of other ones that have the KCK theme.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to check that out. I really like that. Is that the downtown mural?
I looked this up once because somebody had a similar question. Let me think about it a minute and see if I can remember what my what the outcome of my research was. Because they said one site and I was like, no, I don't think it's that one. And then I had to go searching for it.
7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14.
Is that Commissioner Kane in the 5th floor?
I believe so. Oh, it's on Minnesota.
It's me, one and only.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Commissioner.
What's up? I just got off the forum a second ago. I was outstanding.
Oh, okay, good deal.
Yeah, just turn it all the way down. See? Are we ready? Smoke them if you got it.
I do not see Commissioner Philbrook, but we've not had any notification that she won't be present, have we?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, let's just wait another minute.
Yes.
Five o'clock, so they make me start.
Oh, there's Commissioner Philbrook.
There's Dr. Philbrook. There's
Yeah,
some,
Sorry, guys, I was on a Zoom meeting for candidates. Here I am.
you're just fine, but there's some kind of 5th floor conference room noise. So I don't know if anything, it's not constant, but we might want to check on that.
Commissioners, we are live on YouTube as well as UGTV.
Okay, thank you. So I believe we have all of our committee members present, and I think we are ready to go. This is Commissioner Melissa Bynum. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely by Zoom, as well as some on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. And during the meeting, make sure you announce yourself by name and title when you speak so the public knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and its current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of the meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday before the meeting. The public will also have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by phone or Zoom from the lobby of our municipal office building. I will now call the meeting of Public Works and Safety Standing Committee to order. Would our clerk call the roll, please?
Roll call. Groneman,
Here.
Philbrook,
Here.
Kane,
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Markley,
Here.
Bynum.
Here. We have no revisions on our agenda. Our first order is minutes from April 26. Is there a motion?
Move for approval, Kane.
Second, Ramirez.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call on our minutes, please.
Roll call. Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and our minutes are approved. And that takes us to our agenda. The first item is a resolution. We have 7 items this evening. Item 1 is donation of obsolete fire department equipment to the city of Lewis, Kansas Volunteer Fire Department. Miss Susan Alig, is this your item to bring us?
This is the fire department's item.
Okay.
Is someone from the fire department here?
I could not
They were
tell.
planning to be. I can summarize for the commission. These are some items that our fire department no longer needs. And as you can see, the value is not huge. We're talking about a $50 gas-powered fan, a quickie saw for $100, and a $200 hydraulic extraction set that the city of Lewis would find useful. So
Commissioner Mike Kane, move for approval.
Markley, second. It does look, I will mention, commissioners, it does look like there's fire representation in the attendee panel should there be questions, but I am ready to second.
Thank you very much.
Before we go any further, I just want to say that I did not get that information. I got it as far as an item number 1, but I didn't get the information about it. So even though everybody seems okay with it, if you guys could send me that so I could actually see that, not that I'm going to do anything about it, but I want to learn about what we're doing. I just missed that piece of information in my packet. Thanks.
Okay, very good. And I'll ask the clerk if any comments came in from the public on the item.
No comments from the public.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and the motion carries. Thank you very much. The second item is also a resolution. This is authorizing the survey of lands for our 2021 sanitary sewer stream crossing repairs. We have James Bain, Assistant Counsel, here to explain this to us. Mr. Bain.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening. James Bain, Unified Government Legal Department. This is a resolution which declares the project necessary and valid and authorizes a survey of lands for the acquisition of property. There's 5 sites that are impacted, and in those sites, sanitary sewer is repaired and covered in low water areas. I know we have some folks on from Public Works on to, and I think there was a map submitted as well. and they can talk about the project. I don't know who's covering for Public Works.
James, this is Chris Fanger with Public Works Water Pollution Control. I'm covering.
Thank you, sir. Why don't you go ahead and explain just a little bit? I feel like it's pretty standard, but I think it's best if the committee members and the public understands the best we can.
Sure,
the
absolutely.
process. Thank you.
This project, like James said, is sanitary sewer stream crossing repairs, which basically means wherever our sanitary sewer, which runs in the low spots along those streams, when it crosses, sometimes it can get undermined or get other issues that can come up that could affect its ability to continue conveyance. And so this is just simply us taking the means to move forward and repairing those before they fail and discharge to the creeks.
And so what we're authorizing tonight is the survey.
Yeah, so we need to acquire some easements so that we can access into the back by these creeks and do the work that we need to around these sewers, which includes some temporary easements outside of the permanent easements that the sewers sit in.
Okay, great. Now, questions from our committee members? And did we hear anything from the public on the item?
The clerk's office received no communication.
Thank you. If there are no other comments or questions, I would take a motion on the item.
Move for
to
approval, Commissioner Philbrook.
Ramirez, second.
And we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. And that carries. Thank you very much. Item 3 is a resolution. It's also authorizing a survey of lands. It's a little bit different situation than what we just did. James Bain, if you don't mind explaining this one for us, please.
So this is on private property, a private sewer at 7424 Taromie Avenue. Mr. Finger, were you presenting on this one as well?
I can, yes. So right now we have an instance where code isn't met, where the sewer service for these 3 separate properties that are all tied into a fourplex of a single building. The 3 services run through the other property, through the other building that they're connected to discharge it into what is currently a private low pressure sewer system. So our goal is to remediate these code violations, get everyone on their own sewer system so that the downstream people can't cause backups to the upstream system. And at the same time, hopefully provide these people with gravity sewer.
So in this case, it sounds like we're correcting a wrong from probably many, many years ago, basically. But
Correct.
we're bringing everyone in line with code and getting everyone on their own sewer.
That is correct.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments on this item? I will say it sounds like a good thing. Anything from the public, Madam Clerk?
The clerk's office received no communication.
All right. If there is nothing from the committee, I will ask for a motion.
Move to approve, Ramirez.
Second,
A
Kane.
second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call on the item, please.
Roll call. Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. And that motion carries. The 4th item is also a resolution authorizing a survey of lands for the pump station 6 improvements and effluent flow holding basin. Is this also Mr. Finger?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
All right, go for it.
Okay, so this one is Pump Station 6 is located on Kansas Avenue. It's our major pump station that all the gravity flow from, say, Legends and everywhere up north. That all drains down to Pump Station 6 and gets pumped over to our treatment plant, Plant 20 off of South 88th Street. Ultimately, what we're looking to do here is have some surveyors, one, look into some property questions we have about the ownership of the pump station property that's currently sits on, whether it's in an easement and we need to actually acquire property. And two, looking for an effluent flow holding basin location in the near area. The effluent flow holding basin is a stormwater detention facility of sorts. It helps detain high flows from wet weather events where stormwater may in one way or another get into the system and cause an increased flow that the plant can't take or the pump station can't take. It'll get bypassed to this effluent flow holding basin.
Excellent. Questions from the committee? And were there any comments from the public on the item?
Clerk's office received no communication.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
Move for approval and then a question.
Markley, second.
Sorry.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Commissioner Philbrook.
So when we, this on the last one, and that is taking a complete acquisition of parcels, you know, eminent domain, that sort of thing. Do you have to come back before us again, you know, when you're finishing up on this, or is this just now you get to go ahead?
We do have to come back before the court action will be filed. And so this is twofold. In order for a court action to be filed, the commission has to determine that the project is necessary and approve the survey.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure, because including myself, sometimes I'm not exactly sure what the process is. And so I appreciate your thoroughness. Thank you, Mr. Bain.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second on this item. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. And that motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Finger, and all the public works folks for all you do.
Thank you.
Item 5 is a federal grant. This is a request from our police department to apply for Edward Byrne JAG federal grant, and Laura Cromwell is here with the police department to explain this particular grant application.
Yes, hi, good evening. My name is Laura Cromwell. I'm the fiscal officer for the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. We are requesting approval to apply for and accept the federal fiscal year 21 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. This particular grant is considered both an entitlement grant and a formula grant. We're entitled to this funding through this grant program because we are a law enforcement agency and we have the requisite crime data. The amount of funding we're entitled to is determined by a formula that incorporates both our population and violent crime statistics here in KCK. And so this year, our allocated amount is $100,030. And the PD would like to use this money to purchase the following items: a new EOD bomb suit to replace an expired one, and new and replacement equipment items for special operations and our narcotics support team, as well as mobile fingerprint scanners for use both in the field by CSI and operations. Once awarded, the PD would have until September 30th of 2024 to spend down the grant funds. These projects would all be 100% federally funded with no match requirement from the UG.
Commissioner Mike Kane, move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Philbrook.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions from our committee? And any comments from the public?
No communication received from the clerk's office.
All right, so there is a motion and a second on the item. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley, Bynum.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you so much. Item 6 is also a request to apply for Edward Byrne JAG State Grant, and Laura Cromwell again.
Yes, okay, so a second grant we're requesting approval for is the fiscal year 2022 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. This one's overseen by the Kansas Governor's Grants Program and the Kansas Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. So the state has been allocated $2.15 million through the Edward Byrne program for fiscal year 22. And so they're seeking pass-through entities to award portions of this funding. So this one, as opposed to the previous one, this one will be a competitive grant process. All units of local government are eligible to apply, and the police department and the sheriff's office are going to submit a joint application. The police department is going to be requesting funding to support and expand our officer wellness training efforts, as well as provide more extensive training with respect to crisis intervention. Our hope is that these added trainings will also boost officer retention. And the sheriff's office will be requesting funds to purchase 91 tasers in order to outfit their entire department. They were able to purchase half of the needed tasers within their existing budget, but they're requesting JAG funding to purchase the additional half. Collectively, our application budget at this time totals $349,410, which is a minor adjustment from the total I originally submitted for the agenda. We made a couple tweaks to a couple of our projects. The performance period for this grant is only 1 year, and so it'll have a project period end date of September 30th, 2022. It'll be 100% federally funded with no match requirement from the UG.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramirez, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Bynum. I believe you said it, Laura, but I want to clarify for my brain. The final number, the 347,000, that's the police and sheriff combined together, correct?
Yes, so we can only apply one time on behalf of the unified government, so they will only accept one application. So we have a joint proposal. So part of our project will be police department projects and the other part of the budget will be sheriff, but collectively our entire application budget would be $349,410. And that's different from what I had submitted previously a couple weeks ago by a couple $1,000. But yes, that's the total budget for our grant application.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Laura, it's Commissioner Bynum. Could you step back to the CIT portion and say again, what is it, sheriff or police side?
So the police department is doing a focus on officer wellness as well as crisis intervention. So we are requesting funding for additional training for both wellness and CIT classes. And it's the sheriff's office, their only request is money for tasers.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Any
welcome.
other questions for Laura Cromwell? Is there any comment from the public on the item?
Clerk's office received no communication.
Commissioner Mike Kane, move for approval.
Markley, second.
We have a motion and a second on the item. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. And that motion carries. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
The last item on our agenda is amendments to our animal ordinances, and Jennifer Stewart is here to present. She is the director of our Animal Services Division. And Jennifer, if I'm not mistaken, you have some slides to show, don't you?
I do.
Okay, I will hand over the floor to you.
Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so there are just 3 of them. The first one is let's see here, the foul permit. Right now, there is an initial permit fee of $10, and the renewal fee is at no cost currently. I'd like to get that changed to a $10 renewal fee. We do have to send officers out into the field to check to make sure that the permit holders are remaining in compliance and they're keeping their animals healthy. So I would suggest that after the first renewal that we do a 2-year renewal permit instead of every year. I think if they are in compliance the first and the second year, I think that we would be okay with making that basically a 2-year permit after the first renewal. And it usually takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes. We don't send officers out specifically for a foul permit or a recheck. We work them into the calls. So I think that $10 is a fair amount for the renewal fee. So that is the first one. Should I go through all 3 of them?
I would go ahead and show all of it. Thanks.
Right. And the second one is continuing with foul. There is just the wording changes on this. We have a lot of people that get confused by 7-175. What is foul? And we have a lot of roosters in our city, and it was just confusing with the where it says the following exceptions are ducks and female chickens. So we specifically put in roosters, which are male chickens, and hens, which are female chickens, just to make some clarification that only ducks and hens are allowed in the city. And then the last one is nuisance animals, 7-215D. And we just made an addition to this that included another's private property. So how it is worded currently is if someone is walking their dog on public streets and the dog jumps on me, I can sign off on putting a person in fear citation. That does not include if the dog were to run onto my private property and maybe, chase me in my yard. So we would like to add or another's private property as part of the putting a person in fear ordinance. And those are the only 3 we have.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions on the foul slide, or I guess you have 2 foul slides. The
Okay.
middle, that one.
Okay.
So we're not saying that roosters are allowed. What we are doing is clarifying that unless you are zoned agricultural, you cannot have anything other than ducks or hens.
Correct.
Because we know there's a lot of roosters out there on property that is not zoned, but just to be clear, we have not changed that. We're just clarifying the language and then clarifying that unless you are zoned agricultural, you're still limited to ducks and hens.
Correct.
Okay. On the last one, what would happen to the person whose dog most likely put a person in fear? The person who was put in fear would sign a complaint, and then what would be the next thing that happened?
So that would, they would go to court in municipal court.
Okay.
And if found guilty, then a fine would be assessed against the animal owner.
If that happened repeatedly, would there be a step after that?
I believe after 4 instances of in the nuisance ordinances that the animal would then become, or it could become deemed dangerous.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions from the committee?
This is Commissioner Philbrook, and I want to thank you, Jennifer, for doing all that hard work, because I know you're undermanned, out the wazoo undermanned. And, you know, and I don't know how you're getting accomplished what you're doing, but kudos to you and your folks.
Oh, thank you.
And did we receive any comments from the public?
Clerk's office received no communication.
Thank you. And if there aren't any other comments or questions, I would take a motion.
Move for approval, Commissioner Philbrook.
Second, Ramirez.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Groneman,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye. Thank you so much, Jennifer. That motion carries.
Okay.
And that is the conclusion of Public Works and Safety Standing Committee. I appreciate your attendance and have a good evening to BPU member Tom Groneman. We are adjourned as this standing committee, and I will hand this over to Commissioner Markley for Administration and Human Services.
Thank you and have a good rest of the night.
All right. Before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday before the meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the lobby of the municipal office building. I will now call this meeting of the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee to order. Would the clerk please call roll?
Roll call, Philbrook,
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Bynum,
Here.
Markley.
Here. There are no revisions to the agenda tonight. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes from our April 26th meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
Bynum, move approval.
Ramirez, second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye, thank you. Those minutes have been approved. We have a distinct theme in our agenda today. We'll begin with item number 1 on our committee agenda. Item 1 is an ordinance changing the Sunday start time from noon to 9 a.m. for the sale of alcoholic liquor. I have Jeff Conway here to present. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks, Commissioner. Jeff Conway, legal. It's a very simple ordinance. Basically, the Kansas legislature in the last session did many things, one of which was allowed locals to move that Sunday sales time up from noon to 9. You can move it anywhere in that period, but the extreme would be 9. So that's basically what it does. The ordinance moves up that window to 9 for alcoholic liquor. And then the second piece is for CMB or cereal malt beverage. And that's basically what it does. Now, one thing I want to do, I do have I'll share my screen. There we go. So the House Bill 2137 is the bill that did all of that. It also allowed liquor sales on the so-called summer holidays, Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Labor Day. The UG had already done that a few years back. And so that was in Ordinance 5905. So we didn't have to do that, even though they allowed us to do that. So that piece is already taken care of. Now, one thing that is very important is that they set it up, the legislature set it up so that there's a 60-day waiting period to see if there's any petitions that will be filed. If not, then the ordinance will go into effect on the 61st day. There is also a requirement to publish twice. So that kind of lays out the timeline for this particular ordinance. So again, it just basically moves it up from noon until 9 a.m. and it's for those both types, the liquor and the CMB. And I do want to point out one quick thing, and this is only something an old bill drafter would love. I want to show, if you have the hard copy there, in the section 1 B, it says no person shall sell blah blah blah, and on Sunday not earlier and not later than. So that feels like tortured language. I tracked the state statute exactly, but my guess is it may have been a drafter error in Topeka. So at this point, we can fix that up, and my suggestion is to eliminate the two words "not" and "not" in the sub 1 there, and that'd make it a little bit tighter grammatically. So that's your choice. Is you can perpetuate what's possibly a drafter error in Topeka by the way it's written right now, or we can fix it. Either way, I'd take your lead on that. So that's the first piece of this alcohol package we have tonight. Oh, and I did want to mention that Lori Wilson with the business licensing division of the UG is also available as we get into these. And if you have questions about how the UG is taxing things and how we enforce all of this, she's available as well.
Thanks, Jeff. I vote for fixing the Topeka error and not perpetuating it. Other questions from committee members?
Melissa has her hand up, and so
I
does
was just
Christian.
pulling up my window. Commissioner Ramirez, it looks like, is at the top of my list.
Thank you, Commissioner Markley. Thank you, Jeff, for presenting. The only question I have, and it's based from an email that we commissioners received a little bit before this meeting. What's the reasoning for us to change the times to 9 a.m.? Is what prompted us to want to change that time?
Commissioner, it just simply the legislature allowed the locals to move it if they want to. There was, I think, some talk. Maybe the industry may have talked to business licensing. There might have been some talk that we might as well move it with respect to competition with other jurisdictions. I think they intend to move it. And then there were some people that asked, well, do I have to? Do I have to open at 9 a.m.? And you don't. It's just it simply broadens the window and allows you to if you want, but you can't open any earlier than 9.
Okay, so it's not, you don't have to open at 9 a.m. It's just giving you the possibility.
Correct.
Okay, because I think the the business owner that reached out to us, I think they're taking the understanding that they have to open at 9 a.m. And so I think if we're having something like this, we need to make sure that we're vocalizing it correctly to especially our small business owners, because they're afraid of the competition within the county itself with big box stores and bigger liquor stores. So I think we need to make sure that we are messaging it right to them, that they know that this is just the option to open. It's not required to. So
That's-
with that, that was the only question and comments that I had concerning this ordinance. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Commissioner Bynum?
I have a couple of questions. I'm on the same topic as Commissioner Ramirez, and we did hear from a longtime family-owned liquor store owner in the community. I'm not believing so much that they don't know they can't open at 9 as believing that if we change the law to 9, others will open while the smaller family-owned businesses might not be able to staff as easily as a larger chain store, and therefore puts them at a disadvantage, which I believe they have been at a disadvantage ever since the state, changed the law allowing for the stronger beer sales in places like grocery stores. All of that to say two things. I'm not terribly crazy about changing this part of our ordinance for that reason. And my question is, as of right now, without this change, nobody sells alcoholic liquor prior to noon on a Sunday. Is that correct in Wyandotte, or I should say in Kansas City, Kansas?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay. I have another question on your slide that speaks to the petition.
Mhm.
Are you able to share with us what that petition process would look like in terms of who would request the petition and by what, like, for example, by what date would it have to be submitted to make its way onto a ballot, and how many valid signatures and things like that? Can you tell us about that process?
I am a little bit of a loss at that. I think it might be, it's geared to the last presidential election and its percentage. I don't know about the exact dates. And then I believe once, let's say they file the petition and get enough signatures, and it happens in that 60-day window, then there's two options. One is if a special election, but I think we've gone past that possibility. And because we're so close to the general election, then it'd probably be put onto the general election ballot.
You know, I have no idea if anyone would be interested in such a petition, but I guess I think it's important for anyone that might not want this change to understand the one last remaining step they would be able to take prior to the change in the ordinance.
I could see if I could pull that up in the next couple minutes, or it depends on when you'd like that answer.
If you think you can get to that answer, I'm going to guess that's through either our election commissioner or possibly even the Secretary of State's office that governs elections. If you think you can get there, that would be fine for me to know, but that's my remaining question. If I were so opposed to it that I actually wanted to begin a petition process, I think I need to understand, do I have to have that done within the 60-day period? You know, that sort of thing. What ballot would it appear on, et cetera. So if you don't mind taking a minute to look while we maybe either talk more about this or move to the next one, but
Sure.
Commissioner, this is Henry Couchman. Can you hear me?
Yes, Henry, welcome.
Hi. I just wanted to point out section 4 of the draft ordinance specifies how that procedure for a vote on Sunday sales would be conducted. I don't know if you guys have looked at that or not, but you have to file a petition within 60 days following the second publication. It has to be signed by qualified voters of the city, equal in number to not less than 5% of the voters of the city who voted for the office of president at the last preceding general election. It's filed with the Wyandotte County Election Commissioner. And in that case, then the ordinance would become effective only if and when approved by the majority of electors voting thereon. I can't tell you when that would occur, although I would assume it would be coming up.
okay, I really appreciate that. I did not make my way to that section of the ordinance, but it could possibly be in the upcoming general election or some election after that, I guess. And it would,
Yes.
and the petition days start counting after second publication of the notice.
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate you finding that for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry.
That's all I have, Commissioner Markley.
Thank you. Commissioner
Commissioner
Philbrook, you had
Kane,
your
move
hand up
approval.
and then you took it down. So I don't know if
Well,
you took it down on
Commissioner-
purpose or by accident.
Yeah, no accident there. Commissioner Bynum asked my question, so I didn't need to. Thank you.
Okay, and then I heard another voice. Was that Commissioner Kane, perhaps?
Yeah, Commissioner Kane, move for approval.
I have a motion. Is there a second or additional questions?
I would point out one more thing. I think the motion to move to approve should be with the changes suggested by Jeff in the language.
The correcting Topeka changes.
Yes, and there are two places in the ordinance where that needs to be done. One for the alcohol and one for the cereal malt beverages.
Okay, I want to add whatever Henry said, but I want you folks to realize that the liquor stores this year worked their tails out to make this modification so they could sell, if they chose to open up at 9 o'clock, that they would be able to sell more alcohol like Missouri does. And so instead of them going over there, so make the modifications that Henry talked about with my motion. Thank you.
Modified motion still needs a second.
Second and then a question. This is Commissioner Brooke.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So then if it goes by us, then this is going to go to full commission and be open for another conversation, correct?
Correct.
Be
Yes.
prepared, guys. Be prepared. There will be questions, more of them. Thank you.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. A roll call on that motion. Oh, I should ask, did we have any comments to the clerk's office?
Or no communication received.
All right, in that case, roll call on the motion.
Roll call. Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
No.
Barkley.
Aye, thank you. So we are we are moving right along in our theme here. Item number 2 is an ordinance amending the municipal code to conform to numerous changes made to the Kansas Liquor Control Act and the Club and Drinking Establishment Act. Jeff, again, I think this comes to you.
Okay, sorry, I had to grab that. So this is basically the bulk of House Bill 2137. So the legislature dropped a whole bunch of different changes into their statutes, and really the way to explain it is we have code provisions, some of which follow the state statutes. In many instances, we're silent, so then it just defaults to the state statute. And in those places where we do have code provisions that track the state statute, we need to make sure that it's synced up with whatever the statute is. And if they change it, then we have to change it as a ripple. So I'm just going to walk through this. None of this really is major, but I just wanted to show what changes they did and then what we have to do to correspond. So for instance, they did the Sunday sales, and so we've already addressed that in the previous one. And I broke it out that way because that's the only piece that needed that 60-day waiting period. And the rest of these do not. So these are all just basic straight up changes that we can address tonight. And like I said, the 3 Sunday holidays, that was already addressed, so we can skip right over that. They've got the effective date of the special or shipping licenses. We don't have a comparable provision, so it doesn't matter. They had sale of refillable and sealable containers. In shorthand, you could call that the liquor to go. We had some rules changes during the pandemic that tried to allow some of that. And so we do have a code provision for 4-7, but I didn't want to go into all of that of how it syncs up with the language and all that type of thing. So I basically put in 4-7 that except as otherwise provided in state law. So that way we're not tripping over the statute, but we are complying with what the changes they made. And in 4-7, it's possession. So I just didn't want us to have people get into trouble if they're walking around and they're complying with state law with respect to walking out with a refillable and sealable container, and then they get hit with a possession on the local basis. So that should take care of that. And you see that in sub B and in sub C. Whoops, sorry. There. Now the next cluster is they did a lot of things with cereal malt beverage, and you can see the comparable provisions over there in the UG code. And so it basically amounted to trying to treat CMB the same as liquor in many different situations. And so it was just simply adding a reference to CMB in the code provisions. They had a change where they allowed mixed alcoholic beverages in pitchers. And so we would have to, in order to allow that on the local level, then we amend the 4-105 to allow that. The next two provisions, we don't have a comparable provision in the code. So they changed it and we didn't have to, we just defer to the state law. Allow a person to receive a license for the spouse is the spouse of a law enforcement officer. So we make that change in 4-139. The next chunk has to do with the residency requirements. And so at first glance, you think, why are we getting rid of the residency requirements? Well, the state was a little bit concerned about challenges brought by out-of-state liquor wholesalers, liquor distributors, et cetera, on the basis of the Dormant Commerce Clause. And that's basically the notion that you can't really restrict the free flow of commerce within the United States based on where you are and where maybe someone is selling from. And so the legislature decided this is probably a good time to just knock out all of those residency requirements before we get lawsuits on that basis. So there's several places in 4-137 and 4-139 where we have residency requirements because we've just borrowed that from the state statute. So if they knock it out, then we have to knock it out as well. I just wanted to make a point that just because you don't have a residency requirement for a lot of these categories, you still have to have a resident agent here in the county, so that it's the subject of a litigation. There is somebody that can represent that company here. And then also, it doesn't mean that they get off scot-free. The ABC can require a non-resident to submit documentation, do background checks, et cetera, et cetera. So that's under state law. I promise this isn't going to go on forever. There's just maybe a couple more slides that authorizes the fulfillment house license applications. We don't have something like that. They talk about farm winery licenses. We don't have that. We would defer to the state law. And anyone with a beneficial interest in a licensed manufacturer can get one drinking establishment license. We did have something like that, so I put in the tweak to correspond with the state change. The application for retailer's license be approved if you already have a vineyard, and we don't have that. And then I just wanted to make sure to say that there were some references already in state law to powdered alcohol. Our code didn't have that, so we kind of had to update. So I did that in 4105. There's also a reference to permitting free samples already authorized by state law, and that was in 4105. I made that tweak as well. And then I don't know anything about RV resorts, but the state decided to create a new category for that. And so to update ours, I dropped that into 4204. So if anybody wants to do that, now they can, I guess. I don't know where an RV resort would show up in Wyandotte, but or KCK, but we're ready, I guess. All right, so that's that. So it's a whole cluster of different changes, trying to sync up with the state statutes, and much of it is just mainly references and cleanup. So any questions?
Just a comment, Commissioner Mike Kane, they work these bills every which way you could possibly work a bill, trying to generate more money for the state of Kansas. And then that's why they changed it. Like I said, that they'd be going to Missouri or somewhere else to get their alcohol. So move for approval.
Commissioner Philbrook, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments from the public?
See no communication from the public.
All right, roll call on the motion.
Roll call. Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye, thank you. And because 2 is not enough, item number 3 is an ordinance amending the municipal code to align the occupational tax with the state biennial alcohol licensing schedule for licensees. Jeff, this has your name on it as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Actually, the title probably is longer than what the time you're going to spend on this. Oddly enough, the state moved from an annual licensing structure to a biennial, in other words, every 2 years. And they did that in 2010, but we didn't really make that adjustment. And so our code has references to annual. And it's not a local licensing, but the state allows us to levy an occupation tax. And so that's the form it takes on the local level. And so talking to the industry, it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to have a biennial schedule for their licensing, but yet have to pay every year on the local level. And so it's probably about time to sync those up. And that's what this does. So in other words, in 2010, we had the biennial. We got the annual on the local. You can see here's the statute. Provides a window 200 to 500. And so we currently do that. And like I said, Lori Wilson is online to talk about any of the details about that. Another statute talks about the biennial occupation license tax. And we have a schedule in the code, and it basically amounts to half of the statutory biennial amounts. So those numbers line up nicely. Again, there's a window for the retailers of not less than 200, no more than 600. And kind of an odd one is the CMB retailers, where it's just $100. And so for both consumption on or premises are off. So those kind of generally line up. So we would try to take all these categories and work them into a biennial occupation tax. So it's at the same time as the state. And then we need to transition the annual right now to try to get them over to a biennial. So that'll take a while. And you basically have a transition period. And then once the date rolls around for the state licensing, and then our local date is the same, then it'll just go on from there. And so whenever their state license is up, they'll pay both the state and local at the same time. And then we have for some reason, the state has decided to do annual for CMB. And so we would keep the annual occupation tax for CMB retailers. And that's about it for that. If there's any questions.
Commissioner Mike Kane, move for approval.
Ramirez, second.
All right, any comments received from the public?
Clerk's office received no communication.
All righty, roll call on the motion.
Roll call. Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. All right, not last in our agenda, but last in our set of alcohol-related ordinances is item number 4, an ordinance authorizing the establishment of a common alcohol liquor consumption area at the Legends Outlet in Village West. Jeff, once again, fill us in.
Thanks, Commissioner. So here's an excerpt from the statute that authorizes this. So it allows locals to set up common consumption areas. Now, most of the time, you've probably seen it where you can designate blocks of a city, and you'd block off the traffic. You'd put sawhorses out and do that for festivals and things like this. That's the notion. But here's the statute that authorizes that. The situation here is a little bit different. It's the Legends area, and I think in the maps it shows it's this area. It's kind of a public commons area, kind of towards the west end of the Legends outlets. It's got kind of that artificial turf with some chairs and things like that. So most of the time it would be used as just the way it is now. But the Legends wanted it to be able to apply for an ABC license, and then it would be the permit would be granted through ABC for a few times a year. They might open it up for events, and that area would be roped off and would be a consumption area that would ABC would enforce that. Now the UG wouldn't be involved in that very much at all, but we have to kick off the process. So we have to have a resolution that says, yes, we authorize that. And then that resolution is sent to ABC, and then ABC would go through all of the details of what the permit would be and how it's going to be enforced and all of that type of thing. And if you're wondering what a common consumption area, so here's the definition: it's indoor, outdoor area, not otherwise licensed, et cetera. And it has to be clearly marked. And usually for the permit purposes, you have to have, your own enforcement, your security, the glasses have to be clearly marked, that's part of that. And so it's not confused with anything else. So, and here's the location. You can see the north would be to the north. North would be to the top, sorry. And here's the areas. And so that's kind of what it looks like. That would be looking, roughly to the southwest. And then there's another view of how it would probably be marked off once they get it up and running. So this, again, this is just to start the process, to get the resolution sent into ABC with their application. And then basically it would be a relationship between the Legends and ABC from then on. Our police would be available, but we wouldn't have the main enforcement. So any questions on that? I'd be happy to answer.
Commissioner Mike Kane, move for approval.
Commissioner Philbrook, do you want to ask a question?
Second, but I've got a question. I'll second that, but I have
That's
a
a theme
question
tonight
again.
as well.
I was like, what? Okay, so you say that our law enforcement wouldn't be primary. Does that mean that our law enforcement would be told of this activity ahead of time so they can have time to prepare if they think they need to?
Commissioner Philbrook, yes, that's the idea. Is there's a provision in there, required security says that the applicant would be working with the KCK Police Department, probably keep them apprised of the events and work with them. Much the same way as liquor laws are enforced now in different establishments, but the main enforcement would be you wouldn't want to lose this permit. You wouldn't want to get shut down. ABC would keep an eye on whether it's being the permit is being complied with.
And you mean ABC? I know you keep saying ABC. The problem with acronyms is a lot of folks out there don't know what these are, and I had to look at it and go, "Oh, alcohol beverage."
Right.
Sorry, like okay. So all right. It doesn't say in there how much head time that the city gets, does it? Anywhere?
It does not. I borrowed some language from other ordinances, and it says something like we'll work closely with KCK. So we could add that.
Yeah. Could you? I mean, I don't know, what a good leeway time would be, but we always have to plan ahead on how we're going to schedule folks. And I'm sure they would arrange months ahead, even that. But if we could maybe put in, I don't know, 3 to 4 weeks leeway, head time, so our folks can. I know I'm micromanaging, but I'll tell you what, a lot of times people just don't make those things happen fast enough for us to be able to come in line to make it work well. So thanks, Jeff.
Sure.
They have to have a motion to accept that modification, I imagine, with the person who, is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, we can do it that way.
Or you want to bring it back to full commission that way?
It's whatever your preference is. If the idea is simple of, let's say, 4 weeks notice before the event.
Yep.
I could write that in there.
Commissioner Kane, Dr. Philbrook has suggested some amendments, and I'm curious whether you will amend your motion accordingly.
I amend that motion accordingly. Thank you.
Second again.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call on the motion.
Roll call. Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Conway, for getting us through all of those items.
Thank you.
All right. Last on our agenda, item number 5 is a discussion regarding burn permit options for trees knocked down during storms. And I show that Patrick Waters, oh, there he is going to speak on this item. Patrick?
Thank you, Commissioner. On June 11th, there was a microburst storm in the Piper neighborhood. This led the county administrator to authorize a temporary extension of the burn permits for the neighborhood, so long as people obtained permits from the health department and the fire department. There have been some questions regarding what people are allowed to do with the storm damage and what air quality control measures may be required. So we wanted to give a brief presentation tonight. I'm actually going to introduce one of the newest members of our office, John Khalil. He will start the presentation, followed by members of the health department and fire department. John, whenever you're ready.
Welcome, John.
Hi. My name is John Clough with the legal department, and like Patrick said, we were going to go over some of the municipal code around open burning in the county. Are you all seeing my screen? Okay, there it is.
Yep.
Sorry. So the first thing is currently Wyandotte County Municipal Code section 317A provides that no person shall dispose of residential waste or refuge by open burning or cause, allow, or permit open burning of residential waste or refuse. Sorry. And then there's two exceptions to this rule. There are permits may be granted for non-residential waste and extraordinary yard waste and organic yard waste. Section 317H1A provides that fires set for the disposal of non-residential waste or extraordinary yard waste may be permitted when it can be shown that such open burning is absolutely necessary and in the public interest. And then currently, extraordinary or yard waste is currently being deemed extraordinary if it encompasses more than 100 square feet or may not be burned completely in 3 consecutive days between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. The burning of land clearing debris, including trees, brush, and vegetation, is normally considered as being necessary and in the public interest, provided that an applicable air curtain open pit destructor of suitable design and capacity is used to accomplish the burning. And then using this type of air curtain requires an additional permit to be obtained from the director prior to its use. So currently KDHE allows open burning of trees and brush without air pollution controls at most locations. However, they do encourage and may require emission controls at some sites located in sensitive areas near population centers. And KDHE prefers to allow open burning only in a manner that guarantees the least number of people will be adversely affected by any given burn. And then this also gets us into the potential issues with the EPA. So in the past, the Kansas City Metro Maintenance Area, which includes Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri, has been deemed what's called a non-attainment area, which means that the area hasn't met the national primary or secondary ambient air quality standards. As a result of this, the area was placed into, over the years, has been placed into several different plans to reach attainment. And in June of 2005, attainment was reached in the Kansas City metro area, which then triggered a contingency plan be adopted by the metro area to ensure that attainment would be maintained for the next 10 years. This plan was adopted in 2007. So the plan was completed in 2017 because Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri have maintained attainment in that time. This contingency planning required the area to have certain controls in place that if there were increases in volatile organic compounds or nitrogen oxide emissions that threaten the standard, that these would be reduced and eliminated down to attainment. Now, a failure to continue to implement these controls may lead the EPA to redesignate the Kansas City maintenance area back into non-attainment status. And so being redesignated could lead to potential penalties from the EPA, which include them issuing an order to the unified government to comply with requirements or prohibitions of an implementation plan. They also have the ability to issue administrative penalties, which are likely fines of up to $48,762 per occurrence, which is capped at $392,000, or they can file a civil action with against the unified government. And I think this is yours, Julianne.
Thanks, John. Good evening, everyone. Julianne Van Loo, Director of the Health Department here. Many of you know Rollin Sachs, who previously was the Director of our Environmental Health and Air Quality Division. Rollin left us a couple weeks ago to seek a new opportunity, but he is by far one of the best experts in the county on air quality and our local ordinances. And he has graciously agreed to come back this evening and speak to you all about the Health Department's concern on this matter. So I'm actually going to throw it over to Rollin to speak to our side of things. Thanks, Rollin.
Sure. Good evening. I hope everybody can hear me. So additional considerations with this is that this local ordinance for the portion that is the spring and fall residential burning opportunities was never really designed for the removal of entire trees. It was simply designed as a tool for maintenance for yard waste in small amounts to be disposed of by the homeowner. Prior to 97, prior to the unification, the ordinance had allowed for open burning the first weekend of every month. And with that, it contributed to our ozone issues, as was previously explained. It contributed, and as part of those control measures for the state implementation plans, we redid the ordinance and simply allowed the 2 time periods that we currently have. So the major issues with open burning of this type, it creates significant health issues for residents in the presence of the smoke. The smoke has volatile organic compounds in it and particulate matter. People with any health issues, heart-related, respiratory-related, are going to experience difficulties with it. Even people that are not necessarily compromised to that don't want to be in the presence of the smoke. So the smoke is our biggest issue coming from this, and the use of an air curtain destructor that was pictured earlier. Simply in EPA standards, this would be an incinerator, and using the incinerator reduces the potential for smoke to the public in an efficient manner. They operate about 1800 degrees usually, and can efficiently and quickly eliminate large volumes of material. We've used them in the past for a lot of development in the county, and it's something that's stood the test of time. So there's a reason that we use the air curtain destructors. In fact, any other municipalities across the metro area requires the use of them for open burning in residential areas. So with that, Julianne, I throw it back to you for the next slide.
Sounds good. So given Rollin's summation there of the health department's concern, we'd like to go on record that we are not recommending any changes be made to section 317 of the Unified Government Code of Ordinances this evening. We believe the fall and spring windows allow for an adequate amount of burning to take place, and we do have exceptions that come up throughout the year that we do allow if they're using, again, this air curtain destructor. So with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Droppelman with the fire department.
Good evening. This is Chief Droppelman with the Fire Marshal's Office. Juliana, who's got control of the slides?
John does.
Okay, John. Okay. All right. So the first one here kind of just explains how the residential process works. It was developed between Rollin Sachs and I to more efficiently get burn permits out to people. every time somebody calls the fire department saying, "I need a burn permit," it doesn't start with the fire department. It starts with air quality. They're the ones that determine whether or not the burning can occur, period, whether it qualifies under the state statutes and under the city ordinances, because it is under Chapter 3 of what and when you can burn. The fire department's role is to make sure it's done safely if the air quality department allows it. Right. The next one, go ahead. So the residential open burn periods that were developed in April and then October 16th through November 15th. At one point, we were issuing around 1,200 of those during each of those 30-day periods. So there was no way for one person at air quality and myself to be able to handle that volume. So air quality kind of gave us a blanket approval during that time period. So look, if you stick by the rules and by what these seasonal permits require, then you've got our blessing. Make sure you're doing it that way. If you have any questions, stop and we'll look over specific ones. So we did that on paper all the way through, I believe, the fall 2019 burn season. And luckily during that time, we tried to figure out a way to make it more easily accessible for the residents, which in 2020 COVID hit. So the fire stations were kind of off limits to the public for a while. So this portal was developed by the GIS and Knowledge Department. It came online in fall of 2020. The April burn season was canceled, I think at the county administrator's recommendation because of the respiratory virus and the COVID, and this would have possibly exacerbated by open burning. So we started this online portal, and basically the residents fill in the burn permit requirements, and it automatically kicks them out one within 24 hours. You can go ahead to the second one, the next slide. So these are our burn permit totals that I went back to. They're actually in a computer database from 2017 through this past spring. You can see kind of the numbers stay around about 1,000. 2020, of course, we didn't issue any in April because it was not allowed during that time. I don't know why October, November was down from the rest, but I think a lot of the residents were happy it was. Go ahead to the next one. So when the fire department, I was asked by the air quality office, hey, do you have any issues with open burning all the storm debris from the June 11th storm? And at the time I said, well, I can see where there's going to be some problems, but personally I don't, I rather, I don't like to see landfills fill up with this stuff. So I drafted a letter and sent it to them about my concerns that I had. They asked if the residential portal for applying for them could be modified so that the residents could use that. I said, I'll check with GIS. So they were able to do that. Hopefully we can get it reset back for October, because it did take quite a bit of work and testing to do this. And as of today, actually, you can change that applied for to 8. I gave out another one today. 6 of them have been issued. 1 of them was denied. And you can see the reason there. It was actually filled out by a neighbor. Wasn't filled out by the person. When you fill these out, you're signing on there that you've read the rules and regulations. It's your property and you're going to be responsible for what happens on it. So the permit was falsified and they were already actually burning before I can even deliver the permit to them. And then the last one, which I believe is why we're here today, is one of them is still under review. It's a large agricultural property. They demanded to be able to burn all 60 days because they had so many trees down. And all I could offer them was 1, and technically I really couldn't even offer them that because it's agricultural property. It doesn't fall under the residential open burn requirements. You can go to this next slide. So here's some of the excerpts of the letter I sent to air quality when they asked for my opinion on it. When you get this storm debris, most of the stuff that's brought down, and I had two large trees in my yard, plus a bunch of other branches that came down with the storm. It's green. It can be full of vines and other stuff. If you're going to try and burn that stuff in the first month or so that it falls, all you're going to do is smoke the neighborhood up. It's going to take probably a large amount of gasoline or diesel or whatever somebody's going to try to ignite this stuff. So there's a life safety problem there that I would consider. It also, because it's outside of the residential burn periods of April and October, it falls under the normal International Fire Code rules. So our April and October burn season, the city has adjusted the city ordinances to allow for a 100 square foot base fire to occur within 15 feet of any structure. Now, I don't know about you all, but if you light a bonfire that big 15 feet from your house, you're probably going to set the siding on fire. So I don't know where those rules came from. The International Fire Code says 50 feet minimum. So that's the requirements during this time, because these are pretty large piles of storm debris is what I was predicting. So the 50-foot rule came into effect in the International Fire Code that the city has adopted. As of this time, I have actually taken more complaints from people that have not been allowed to burn because they were designated outside this zone than those people that want to burn. Let's say we've only issued 8 of these so far. Go ahead to the next slide. So the number one complaint I get on the fire department is people burning. And I've gotten them from most of the commissioners, from their secretaries, or whoever you guys report to, of your constituents that are fed up with a neighbor that's consistently burning or whatever. Usually it gets to me because they threaten to go to the media or something over it. So I go and pay the offender a visit. I use whatever's in the codes that allow me to either cite them or warn them that here's the repercussions if you open burn. And you can see the numbers have started to come down. I think we've made a good conscientious effort to handle these. My investigators that are on 24/7, they'll go to these things in the middle of the night or day, as long as they're reported, to 911. And you can see we brought the numbers down. Now 2020, I think there's an anomaly there because we weren't allowed to burn in April. So I think people just went ahead and did it. So that's why you're seeing that increased number there. But for the most part, I think we're starting to get the number one complaint to the fire department about people burning and smoking out neighborhoods a little bit more under control over the last 4 years or so. Go ahead to the next slide. Now, the fire department right now is not recommending any changes to the open burning ordinance. I don't believe there's any reason for it. I think if we can continue that downward trend on your constituents' complaints coming in, I'm happy to have those devices at my disposal to help minimize all those complaints. I'll turn it back over to John.
Yes, thanks, John. So the legal department was asked to put together some options for the commission moving forward. So the first option would be to leave section 3-17H1A as is and continue to require an air curtain open pit to structure of suitable design and capacity to be used to accomplish the burning. The second option would be to amend section 3-17H1A to remove the air curtain open pit destructor requirement. And the third option would be to modify section 3-17H1A to provide greater discretion to the health director regarding the use of air curtains. And this is some potential language for option 3, which would be amending section 3-17H1A. This would say that non-residential waste and extraordinary organic yard waste fires set for the disposal of non-residential waste or extraordinary organic yard waste may be permitted only when it can be shown by a person that such open burning is absolutely necessary and in the public interest. The director may determine the burning of non-residential waste such as land clearing debris, including trees, brush, and vegetation, as well as extraordinary organic yard waste such as trees that are felled by severe storm damage is considered necessary and in the public interest. And the director may also determine what, if any, precautions are needed to ensure air quality standards are maintained. And then the subpoints here is just a continuation of the if an open pit destructor is required by the director, that it will be of suitable design and capacity to be used to accomplish the burning and installed and maintained and operated at maximum efficiency at all times, and that a permit shall be obtained from the director prior to the use of an air curtain open pit destructor. And that's all that I have for you.
Thank you very much, John and team, and particularly Rollin. Thank you for joining us tonight. Good to see your face again. I know we do have a member of the public here to address us. Committee, are there questions anyone has that they'd like to ask before that presentation? Commissioner Philbrook?
I do. First of
Go ahead.
all,
Hold on.
Mr. Butt,
Go ahead, Commissioner Kane. Philbrook will come to you next.
when I've been working on this an extended period of time. In fact, I talked to the state fire marshal. Staff just talked for 20 minutes. Mr. Butt will not be able to get this done in short order, so he needs an extended period of time. And one of the things that's disturbing is when we go out as staff members in public, we have to remember that we represent us. And I'm disappointed how this is handled. We shouldn't be where we're at right now. But I want Mr. Butt to get an extended period of time because they took 20 minutes. He can't get this done in short order. So it's going to take him a little bit of time to explain what's going on.
I think we can definitely work as a committee to make an extension, whether that is in advance or as we come to that 3 minutes, we can make a motion and second for that extension of time. Dr. Philbrook, you are up next.
Well, so my question is does it have to be written that it's the health department, health director that makes the total decision? Can it be done in conjunction with our fire department and the marshal? You know what I'm saying? For that, I'm just, not that I don't trust our health department, but it seems like a dual responsibility, between our fire marshal and our health department. And so I'm just asking, this is something I want to understand, or does it all have to be with one department?
Dr. Philbrook, thank you for your question. I believe we could change the language of the ordinance to include input from the fire marshal, if that's what the commission would like to do.
Well, I don't know what the commission wants to do, but I just not knowing as much as I would like to know really about the whole process, it seems that it would appear to the public that it would be a collaborative decision that way, and both would be responsible for that decision. Am I wrong about that if we put them together?
Go ahead.
John, if I may, this is Julianne, the director of the health department. I have no problem with that being codified into code, largely because that's how it operates in practice right now. So when we got this case that's being disputed, the first thing we do is call the fire marshal, and we don't issue denials on our own. We do it in concert with one another, and we're almost always in agreement, in the rare cases that we do have to deny a request, because we're really on the same page on this topic. So health department would be fine sharing those responsibilities, as written in code, but it does happen in practice.
Well, we're blessed that it is happening that way, but it doesn't mean it has to happen that way. You know what I'm saying? We're happy that it does, but there's no requirement that it does, is there?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any additional questions before I jump to our public presenter? All right, Mr. Budd. I don't know how he gets on here. I know he's there. Yeah, please state your name and city of residence for the record. You have 3 minutes to make your comments, and then as Commissioner Kane.
I understand, but I can't hear them. Commissioner Markley, I apologize, but the video is very choppy, and I heard state my name and address, which I can do, but I can't hear anything else from
Mr. Budd, it's Commissioner Bynum. Angela Markley is frozen for the moment. So what we typically do is allow 3 minutes. And as Commissioner Kane said, you need more time than that. So when that time is up, we certainly will make a quick motion and allow you for more time. Okay.
Okay, thank you. My name is Don Budd. Address is 4021 North 129th in Kansas City, Kansas. I guess I appreciate the members of the syndicate that were here tonight to present what they're going to call the facts in this case. The first and most glaring one that was presented to you that's an absolute, I'd call it a falsehood, but it's an outright lie. The case they're talking about tonight is mine. And I've got a letter right here in front of me that says, it's dated July 9th from the health department from Julianne. This letter is to inform you that your request for a burn permit for 4021 North 129th is denied. It goes on to further explain statutes and things that probably me and you as commissioners don't quite understand. So that's one of probably 10 absolute bold-faced lies that was presented by the fire marshal tonight. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into personalities. I'm going to explain to you the facts of what's happened. And the facts I'm going to present you are from people who were there, that I have witnesses of. On June 11th, there was a microburst that hit western Wyandotte County. A few days after, the Mayor Alvey, a member of the mayor's staff, Commissioner Kane from the 5th District, and a public works official toured my property, which is directly to the south of Dubs Drag Golf Course, as well as other properties. All were understandably upset about what had happened, and obviously a proclaimed microburst. I didn't cut the trees down. Dubs Drag Golf Course didn't cut the trees down. My neighbor didn't cut the trees down. There's no insurance to cover this type of damage. There's no damage to structures. Almost all of these properties were ag properties. An air curtain is something that probably until tonight, a lot of you had never seen before. I've used it a lot on the development side of my business. I can tell you today, to get an air curtain set up, minimum cost is $15,000, and it goes up from there for however long it's going to take you to burn it. If we want to put that kind of burden on the taxpayers, I think that is as close to criminal as we possibly can suggest. I got a letter here dated June 21st from the Public Works Department and the KCK Fire Department teams on Public Works letterhead. And I'm going to read it to you because I'm going to believe most of you've never seen this letter, and it's short and sweet. On June 11th, your area experienced a substantial microburst that resulted in many downed trees, broken limbs, branches, and other difficult to dispose of yard waste. Public Works understands this may have created a challenging situation for you.
Move for extension of time.
Bynum, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Proceed, Mr. Bud.
Challenging situation for you and your neighbors. Working in conjunction with the Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department, we are pleased to announce that the county administrator has approved a special open burn permit period for your area. The special open burn period will last until August 21st in the area roughly bounded by Leavenworth Road to Hollingsworth Roads from 115th to 131st Street. Residents and property owners within this area may participate in a special open burn period until the following conditions. Residents and property owners must obtain the burn permit from the Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department. Before approving the permit, the fire department will perform a site inspection to ensure only storm debris is burnt and that life safety requirements are followed. At the discretion of the fire chief, fire marshal, deputy chief, or their designee, a special open burn period may be canceled or otherwise paused when ozone alerts are issued. To obtain an open burn permit, visit any Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department station or visit the KCKFD website. Please feel to reach out to us by calling 311 or visiting wyco.org. Public Works and KCK Fire Department teams. With this letter, it's very simple. And all this is very, very elementary. These people are trying to cloud the issues with EPA. EPA does not even get concerned with agricultural properties. They don't get concerned with ag burning near as much as they do commercial burning, development burning, even burning where you're close proximity to residents. You got to understand that this property, my specific property, and many, many others out here in the county, in the western side, we've got them on the south side, we've got them on the southwest side. About every commissioner has ag properties in their district. Now, ag properties is not 100 square foot or a 60 square foot lot. It's a piece of property that's several acres, if not several hundred acres. So we're not talking about building a fire next to your neighbor's house and catching the siding on fire. That's not what we're talking about here. All the people that came out said they absolutely understand what we were dealing with, and they wanted to help in any way that they could. I want to reiterate that. I then applied to the KCK Fire Department online. Fire Marshal Dropperman made 2 visits out there. I had 2 different piles on different sides of the property because I didn't want the property or the piles to get too big on the property, so I split them up with the understanding that these trees, there were 28 of them, because when the mayor and the commissioner and the other people were out there, we counted them. I took the trunks of the trees. Now you got to understand, some of the trunks of these trees were 28 inches around. I had my guys out there for 2.5 weeks. We chainsawed them. We used the equipment. We took the bulk of the tree, put them in piles, and I've been giving them away to people for firewood. They're coming over, I'm loading them on their trailer, they're taking them away. We're not burning those. I made that very clear to them. So what we have left are the branches. These piles are insignificant in the scheme of things that these syndicate members are trying to get you to buy into. It's an absolute falsehood what they're doing. And Julianne, you may see my hardship as being humorous. I don't, honey. After the one thing that Chief Roffelman did say that is the truth, after more on-site inspections, I was offered a 3-day permit. Well, understanding the consequence of the guidelines that I said I can't simply comply with that. We've got a 60-day burn period. I've got equipment here. It's not like I'm going to burn. I've got big equipment to keep this monitored. After that point is when I started getting denial letters from the health department and places like that. On July 9th, I got the denial letter from the health department that I read you the 1-sentence excerpt from. It goes on to cite many of the same things that they were citing here. Many of the glaring excuses in this whole thing is the reason they wouldn't give me the permit is because I was zoned agricultural. I've been zoned agricultural since I bought this property in 1997. Now, I haven't changed that. The same cows are living there. We've got the same, well, we don't have the same fence. We had to put new fence up since the storm. And in this letter, the fire marshal's letter and the health department's letter, they simply say that my organic yard waste is, as being zoned ag, is not the same yard waste as residential yard waste. Now, just to go a little bit further to tell you how illogical this is, my neighbor to the east, which owns 6 or 7 acres, we had 2 joint trees. I was not in town when this happened, and he was gracious enough to clean up the trees that were on our property line together. He took those trees. Now you got to understand, the same tree we shared. Half was on his property, half was on mine. That was not included in the 28. He applies for the burn permit. He gets it, and he burns the same trees. I know this story seems so illogical and so unreal, and you can't believe that people are telling these untruths, and you can't believe it's happening. Well, I've given you such minimal examples of what's happened during this process. I didn't create this devastation. I did not want to clean these trees up. I was asked very specifically by the mayor, the 5th District Commissioner, and the Public Works Director, don't put, because we had the opportunity to put them at the curb. I could have took all these trees and put them at the curb, and it would have cost you $100 and some thousand, according to your people, to remove these trees. So I didn't do that. I didn't do what your current ordinance and your current health department director and your current fire marshal wanted me to do, suggest that I do. Now you got to understand that an ag use in this county and every other county in the state of Kansas are people that are farmers. They're people that have cattle. They're not people that have horses. Horses are not classified as agricultural. They've got hay ground. They've got row crops. Those are farmers. We've got thousands and thousands of acres of it in Wyandotte County. I've contacted many of these users. They weren't even aware of it because these guys are much like myself. We do our own, we don't want what's happening in the Western United States to happen here. If we get a diseased or dead tree, we're going to cut it down. We're going to cut it in a reasonable size. We're going to put it in a pile and we're going to burn it when it comes time. And I'll give you an example. As I talked to these other guys, it brought something to light to me because them, such as myself, they've got property, ag property in other counties in the state of Kansas. In neighboring Leavenworth County, we'll start there. The one that is just on the other side of 7 Highway. This is how it works. You call the sheriff's department. You're an ag user. I'd like to burn today. What are you going to burn? We're going to burn brush and trees. Okay. Is there any construction materials? Is there anything else in there? No. They checked the air quality. They said, okay, you can burn. You've got 4 days to burn. You got 6 days. Depends on how big your pile is and what you do. And if you need that time extended, please call us back and we'll come out. We'll give you an extension of time if we deem it necessary. Neosho County is exactly the same. It's more of a courtesy in Neosho County. They don't even mandate that you call. In Butler County, most of us have been around Butler County. We've driven down the turnpike and we've driven through the beautiful Flint Hills here in Kansas. We're going to burn 23,000 acres, 23,000 acres of blue stem grass. KDOT came out. You've seen the signs. Don't drive, dense smoke. When this happens, it's not a fire. It's a smoke event. They do that to control what we're not going to have in the western part of the United States, which are total disasters in our ag properties that will affect then our residential areas. At some point during these processes, we've got to use common sense to govern. You commissioners know this, and most staff Most of these syndicate staff members don't care. They present these facts to you that are untrue. Then they want you to make a decision based on the untruths. Well, most of the public does not realize that you as commissioners really don't have a lot of power in this day-to-day business. You don't have power in personnel issues. I realize this. You don't have power in doing any of this. You've got power, which is where you're at tonight. Where your asses are sitting in these seats, this is when you can vote. This is what you can do to send messages to the public that we're going to protect you, and we're going to use a little common sense to do that. What I'm asking you to do tonight is adopt the ordinance as Mayor Alvey brought it forward. I'm asking you to add one simple line, to also add in all ag uses. If a farmer wants to burn his pasture, so he's got a little bit of control and better grass for his cows next year, we ought to let him do that. If a guy has taken these diseased trees down and put them in the middle of a pasture and he wants to burn those, we ought to let him do that. Because if not, I feel like we're going to have a chamber full of farmers here at the commission meeting that are going to get up and take the same time that I'm trying to take with just as much passion. And we don't need that, because once again, right's right and wrong's wrong. Thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions I possibly can.
A question for staff. This is huge. This is huge for me, huge for Mr. Budd, huge for the farmers. I think this should be seen by all the commissioners. How do we do that?
Commissioner Kane, we could just advance this to full commission for discussion of the full commission.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to move this to the full commission. I would respectfully question, Mr. Budd, that you reach out to some of the other commissioners, because you've left out some of the stuff that has happened with you in this particular ordeal that you're going through. And then I respectfully request staff to always treat everyone the same. You got one guy that got to burn something, and he's right next door, and you didn't let the other guy burn something. It would seem that you had some sort of bone to pick with that particular person.
Hey, can I ask a question, Commissioner Markley, since you're the chair of this? When does this go to full commission, or when would it go to full commission if you chose to?
Probably staff is best able to answer that question. I don't know if anybody has that date right off the top of their head. I will, while maybe staff is finding us that date, Commissioner Bynum has her hand up. We do have a motion on the table. Let's take Commissioner Bynum's comment, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Thank you, Commissioner Markley. My comment is a question about the technicality of the item, because it is a discussion with no ordinance proposed and no vote proposed.
Commissioner Bynum, if I could, I think if we advanced it, we would advance it for discussion as we're having tonight. At that time, a proposal for any proposed amendments could be made, and staff could bring that that final ordinance based on comments made by the public and the commissioners.
Does that
advance it in the same form that we saw it tonight?
We just presented some, Commissioner, we just presented an initial option tonight. But again, you know, I think one commissioner had a comment about a different change or a modification. So, I mean, anything is on the table, and we could bring back a final version after a discussion was held.
I'd like to, Patrick, are you legal? Is that what you are?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When would it go to the full commission, whichever way that this committee decides to move it forward?
So I believe is August 12th. Am I right? Is that a Thursday?
August the 12th is the date. You're right, Patrick.
Okay. The thing I'd like to say up front here is I leave this next Tuesday. I go to compete every year in the World Trap Shooting Championships, and I am gone that day. So I would not be able to attend that meeting, and I certainly would like the opportunity to attend the meeting.
We could postpone it to a different date that you would be in town.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to ask that question, but there's just no possible.
No. We want to resolve the issue. I think.
Can Commissioner Kane make his motion with the specific a specific date tied to it, perhaps?
August 25th.
I think
August 26th.
That's right.
Thursday, the 26th, but yet the mayor has to say it's okay to be put on the agenda, correct? That would be my motion.
Commissioner Philbrook?
So a quick question, Mike. You want this before full commission, or do you want to have a lively debate on the, fifth floor meeting?
I don't
Like
think
a
you can do- I
special,
don't-
like a special session, or do you want it full commission?
I don't think, I mean, technically, I don't think this committee can mandate that something goes to a special session, so that would be something.
No, but we can ask. That's
Right,
that's the
I think the
question.
mayor could make a proposal if he would prefer for it to.
This,
come in
I would
format.
think this would have to go to, what?
Commissioner Markley, this is Emerick Cross, Assistant County Administrator. The special session schedule right now is extremely tight due to the budget
Budget.
extensions, yes.
Oh, that.
Thank
you.
you.
I just wanted some clarification on directions we could go, that's all.
I would certainly be able, I would be available almost the entire month of September if that would help
Let's do that.
this
All right.
this commission out.
We'll find an available date in September so we can work on the budget. And then that gives you time, Mr. Bud, to go around and talk to the other commissioners and stuff like that, because there's some underlying issues. But I think that would be best not to hurry it along and give everyone time. That would give you time to talk to some of the other commissioners about the same issue. Is that okay? September what? 16th. September 16th. That's the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. I'm sorry, but you're bringing up another question in my mind by suggesting that we bypass standing committee on this item, take it straight to the commission. Are we also suggesting that at a commission meeting where we have a discussion about adopting a change to an existing ordinance or two, that we allow for public comment on that item?
We have done this in the past where the committee said, hey, this is bigger than just the 4 or 5 of us. So we want to share with the rest. It hadn't happened very often, but it has happened. Obviously, you got legal here saying you can do it. And I think this is the second one in 16 years I've asked for. So I don't think that's an unusual request. We're trying to resolve an issue that's going to come back at the next storm, so we might as well address it now, instead of waiting. And no, we're not bypassing it. And believe it or not, we've had more stuff come from the other folks than we've brought to them.
I'm not questioning the topic so much as the process. So if there's clarification that the process allows for that, then I'm fine with it.
Is the process not allowed for that?
But, so Commissioner Bynum, make sure I'm hearing it correctly. The motion is to advance this to the September 16th full commission for discussion. If there are proposed changes that are requested at that date, staff would make those changes and we would bring back a formal ordinance.
And at what point, technically, during this process, do we usually bring public comment to the discussion? That's the question I'm trying to get to the answer to.
Oh, sure. Commissioner, tonight and at the full commission as well, every step in the way, public comment is always appropriate and allowed. So we could have public comment on the 16th. And then if there were changes made and we came back the next meeting, there more public comment then.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand. Thank you.
All right, I see no more hands at this moment. I still have a motion without a second. Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Philbrook. Oh, sorry, Christian.
Or I'll take 2 seconds. That's fine as well. We have a motion and a seconds to choose between. Roll call on that motion.
Roll call. Philbrook,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. All right. Thank you to Mr. Budd for being here tonight and to all of our staff for walking us through that presentation. That was our final item for this evening and concludes our meeting. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had to listen to all that.